Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Jeff Lunt, co-founder of Opkey. Jeff works with small business owners to help them simplify their operations, Jeff worked with small business owners to help them simplify their operations, implement systems, and automate their growth, combining strategy, software, and execution. His work focuses on helping businesses move from overwhelm to clarity by building systems that actually support growth. Jeff, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me. It's cool to have you here, and I'm very much excited to dive in and learn a little bit more about your journey. So, Jeff, with all of my guests, I do actually like to start at the beginning. So if you don't mind briefly taking me back to what it was you was doing before you started Opkey, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, sure. So my story is a little bit different, maybe. I went to uni and was studying to become a doctor. So I got my undergrad in biology, applied to medical school, got in, and COVID hit in 2020. So rather than doing anatomy lab online and all of those things that I felt like were important for me to be more hands-on, I pivoted and started a business with my little brother. We started doing marketing for small businesses around our local area and slowly expanded. And the next year, when my deferment came time to accept or decline, I decided to pursue this business with my brother, doing some marketing for small businesses. And from there, it's just evolved and continued to evolve as AI has come about since I started this business and different things like that. So that's kind of my background and how we got into this and where we are now.
Cool start. So obviously very different direction to what you thought you was going. And I think naturally COVID changed a lot of people's minds or even vision about how they could like live their life, I suppose. So did you always kind of see yourself becoming an entrepreneur, even if you was going to be a doctor? Was that something that was in your path, or was that a new aspect to you as well, obviously when you was working with your brother growing the company?
Yeah, no, I always anticipated owning my own practice or doing something in business.
Oh,
My dad ran a series of clinics, and we actually ended up doing the marketing for them eventually. But I kind of, in a lot of states here in the US, you have to have a medical license in order to operate a medical business. And so I thought this would be a great way for me to kind of create a moat, create uh, some competitive protection around a business in the future. And so, having my medical degree, I thought that will eventually be something that I can use, and then ended up in the entrepreneurial path faster than I would have guessed, and
yeah.
without the medical degree.
Yeah, cool. And as you said, but even I know you kind of switched fields a little bit recently. So even kind of back in that same field where you started off, and we
Yeah.
can touch on that in a second. So even a little bit of a full circle moment. And I feel like with anything, even if one day you do go off and decide to get to your degree, you must have learned so much in that startup situation, when you are learning sales, you're learning marketing, all the things that will come into good use when you do set up your own practice as well, if you ever do so. So I feel like you've kind of got this nice catch-22 of life where you're actually serving the industry you want to serve, but doing something in a slightly different way at the moment and then taking it from there.
Yeah, precisely. It's learned a lot of lessons along the way, became HubSpot certified, learned how to run paid ads, do the sales. Just like you said, you get all of these different skills, and everything is valuable. All the experience you gain moves you forward.
Exactly that. So, Jeff, let's dive into Opkey a little bit more, just so the listeners can have some context moving forward. So, I know we mentioned there's been a little bit of a pivot, but who would you say like is your like favorite person to work with? Like, who is your ideal customer? And then from there, how would you help them, and how would you support them at the moment?
Yeah, so originally when we started, we were going after small businesses. Like I mentioned, I was working with those practices. I was a lot on the kind of administrative business marketing side. And
Cool.
so I was certified in HubSpot. We were spending like $25,000 a month on HubSpot just for all the seats we needed to have and the emails. And as we looked at that, we realized, man, this is something that every business needs, but is not a super accessible. So after the that business got sold, we ended up starting this business to try and help small businesses get their foot in the door in terms of having operating systems for their business.
Awesome.
And just over the last year, in 2025, Google launched a crazy update that kind of hit a lot of our business clients hard. June 2025, we saw all of their rankings drop. And we've expanded beyond just like kind of operating systems to marketing and kind of back end business in a box kind of systems as a whole. And so when we saw that, we were kind of devastated, but we had one client who didn't see any hit. In fact, they ranked higher over that the course of that update, and it was a dentist. And so as we've looked into why that was, we found out dentists are our ideal client because they're just hyper local. They don't want anyone coming from 10, 20, 30 miles out. Their radius is 5 to 10 miles, and that's their ideal patient. And so Google's update really lends itself to that. And then as we've dug further into dentistry using some of my background with some of the medical stuff, we've realized that dentists go to school for 4 years here in the US and then may have a residency if they're doing orthodontia or whatever. But over the course of that 4 years, a lot of dental school programs give 2 weeks or less of business courses. And yet, 80% of dentists are small business owners. They own a private practice. And so
Yeah.
we found this kind of niche where I have some of the clinical understanding of how those businesses work, but then also there just is such a need for these systems in their practice to continue to grow them, especially given
Mhm.
all the things COVID hit them really hard. Insurance rates aren't keeping pace with inflation. And so it's just a perfect time to optimize your dental practice for future growth.
Yeah, I love that. And naturally makes so much sense. As you say, with your dental practices, most people have their local area and that's where they go. That's the kind of people they're looking to outbeat, even in terms of competition. So yeah, finding that little niche yourself and very much running for it. And I didn't know the numbers were so drastic. Naturally, I think with a lot of founders, a lot of people, they're very good at their job, they're very good at what they do. For myself, I can take like fitness for an example. I can become a PT doesn't necessarily know how it would be to set up a business around that. So as you say, providing them with that insight, and it sounds like the way you work as well, you are very much focusing on that back end of business, which is where so many people's minds tend to draw a blank. It is on that like operations. It's how do we make sure we're staying on top? How do we build customer pipelines? What is a funnel? It's all those kind of nuances that you don't really, as you say, you don't get taught at dental school apparently. So it's nice that you're providing with that asset coming into play. And I suppose like how do you help them? Like, what is your style, your approach when you are working with your clients?
Yeah, so one thing that we found when we talk with a lot of dentists is they spend between three and $10,000 a month on marketing, and almost all of that is going to SEO or
Mm,
paid ads. It's all going to digital stuff, and yet when you look at dentistry as a whole, 60 to 75% of patients are coming from local referrals or kind of word of mouth marketing, and there's no real systems for that. So we call our approach the inside out patient acquisition system. And
mm,
instead of starting at the digital, kind of that high top of funnel level, we start inside the practice. So we do trainings with the front desk and the hygienists on how to talk about insurance, because insurance is a big thing, or how to talk about treatment plans and financing in a way that helps that dentist capture more of the business that's already in their practice. And then we look at operations or opportunities rather for marketing within their practice. So, how do we
awesome.
generate more referrals? How do we do local networking? How do we get the people in our community that are most likely to be lifelong customers, bring their families, bring their friends? I mean, one of our dental clients has one patient that's brought in 23 referrals, and they're not paying anything for those referrals. That's just all organic. And so you look at the opportunity cost of spending all of your time and energy on digital when it's kind of the old 80-20 rule, and a lot of dentists are spending their most of their money on the 80% that gets 20% of the results.
Yeah, the flip the coin. And I suppose only naturally so like the whole world at the moment is telling you, let's go online. The digital marketing's the way forward. You look at Instagram, it's full of marketing opportunities. And that's just one platform out of many that you can be looking into. So yeah, I think leaning into a little bit more of that human side of it and the way that you was describing, obviously that the practice, setting up the receptionist as more of like a customer service role. Naturally, that might what occur more in a real estate environment or even like a shop environment where they can provide those kind of upgrade services and just enhancing what they're doing from a shop front. And then from the rest of it, we can look at the nuances moving forward. But it sounds like you're very much in the trenches, understanding what they're going through, looking at those nuances and where can we make the most out of the opportunities we have, as you say, without increasing your ROI. For referrals, you're not spending any money. So what can we do to really build those in to have that impact that we're looking for and not add to the bill at the end of the month, which is a really cool number. I think a really cool process to go through.
Yeah. Well, and it's the kind of thing where with referrals, the people they say you're the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. So if I'm sending a referral, it's probably someone who's a lot like me. So if the
Yeah.
dentist likes working with me and I'm kind of his ideal patient, getting me to send more of my friends and family, he's just carbon copying his ideal patients and
Yeah.
multiplying that.
And there's no higher form of client than a referral, in terms of like, I suppose, hot. If you was going to go from hot to cold, a referral is instantly in place. They already know what it's like to work with you. As you say, they probably had a friend that's very close to them recommend it as well. So there's going to be no higher like patient that's going to come in, which is a really cool aspect. Now, one thing I'm very curious to find out, Jeff, is how you go about acquiring your own customers. So like it's a very busy, very noisy world at the moment. So what are you doing at the moment in terms of channels or methods to just find those right people to work with?
Yeah, so one thing that that's probably our biggest pain point right now is when we talk to a dentist, immediately they think marketer, it's kind of sleazy, run paid ads, and we know the story when we were running those clinics, the advertising company we were using, their answer was always, well, just you just need to spend more.
Yeah.
And that's not ever super helpful because there is ways to be more efficient. But when you say, "Hey, we help you get more patients," a lot of dentists immediately are like, oh, well, I've heard this story before. And so getting our marketing out there in the right ways. Right now, we do a lot of paid ads on Meta and so Instagram
Nice.
and Facebook. But the way that we found the best is reaching out to friends and family and kind of telling them about what we do and saying, hey, if you know any dentists, and again, it's kind of what I just was talking about, we only can take on you've as you've alluded to, we it's a pretty boutique service, it's pretty hands-on. We can only take on 4 or 5 dentists actively at a time. It's a 90-day engagement, and then we continue ongoing services, but that initial 90 days is really heavy on our end in terms of our time investment. So we don't take on a ton of new clients. So the clients we do take on, we really want to be the kind of people we want to work with and that are excited about working with us, not that we're having to drag kicking and streaming. So a lot of it comes from talking to friends and family, saying, hey, do you know any dentists? And then talking to our dentists and saying, hey, you went to dental school, you know 50 or 100 dentists from your class. Who of those people are the kinds of people you think we'd vibe with?
Yeah, awesome stuff. As you say, it's kind of practicing what you preach. You're leaning on those referrals, making sure you're getting those good fits coming in. And I think having the two of the both, obviously, naturally running ads online, I don't see any problem with. I think there's a lot of stigma going around about them at the moment, but you're attracting that right kind of person. You're staying top of mind. You can kind of work it through there, and then having a great referral system on top and leaning into that in-person networking that we can all do as well is a really cool aspect. And I know you two, is it still you and your brother running the business, or like what does that kind of back end system look like? Who is there
Yeah,
helping
so
Jeff
when my
out?
dad sold those clinics, he ended up coming on. So it's now me, my dad, and my brother are kind of
Nice.
the co-founders and run the company. And then my sisters and my wife and my brother-in-law have all kind of joined in separate and various roles, kind of as we've gone. So it's
Great.
very much a family thing. And we enjoy the idea of having kind of that lifestyle business. We all get
Yeah.
along. I know that that's super rare for a family business, but it's been something that's brought us all closer together, and it's really been a huge source of it's hard work, but it's brought us a lot of joy and togetherness.
Yeah, I agree. My family actually always worked together. They owned restaurants, even and up until recently, I still worked with them. And it kind of puts everyone in the same boat. As much as yes, it's very hard, and especially if you are like all under one household as well, it can be a lot because you never kind of get time apart. But it does bring you that sense of like it's us against the world. We're building this legacy for ourselves. This is our family. This is what we put our stuff into. Kind of gives you that like paint of a label, which I really enjoyed coming through. And actually, like, there's no one better to work with than your family because there's no one's going to have your back more. So I love the fact that you are leaning into that and it has become like a family affair moving forward. And I suppose what do you guys think of the vision for the company moving forward, or the ambitions you guys have for them maybe the next 6 to 12 months? Like, what are those goals or those targets that you're looking forward to achieving?
Yeah, I mean, with our current team, ideally we'd like to get to about 50 clients,
Okay.
um, 50 dental practices that we're working with across the country. We do, by the nature of what we do, it is a zero-sum game, so we can't work with too many in the same location,
Yeah,
and really
absolutely.
no overlap between any of our clients. So we're limited in that way, but 50 is about where we would hit a good balance of like we still have a life, but we are making enough and able to help those kinds of people effectively. And then from there, it kind of once we get to that point, we'll make a decision on do we hire more people and scale up a little bit? But ultimately, we want to stay involved. We want to this to
Yeah.
be a personalized. We want to work with people who like working with us. And if we step out of the business, then that kind of goes away. So we've created a pretty good ecosystem in our family relationships and with our clients that it makes a lot of sense to kind of keep that.
Yeah.
I think that the world is moving to a place where relationships in person and more interactive are starting to become more important again. And so we look at these dentists and we still do all the digital stuff. We pay for ads for our clients. We know that there's value in that stuff, but those relationship based patients, those referrals and people who are coming to you because they want to work with you, um,
Yeah.
those are the things that are going to matter moving forward. We're getting to a place where the economy and economics of things are such that it's not like everyone needs to do make a gazillion dollars or grind and grind. We have more leisure time than ever. And so
Yeah.
having work become something that's enjoyable because of who you're working with is, I think, super important.
I do too, and I love that aspect. And I think since COVID, a lot of people kind of opened their eyes to that aspect as well. As you say, like it, people get blinded, or I suppose it's like that shiny object syndrome, as you say, like because everyone else is scaling, we need to scale to that level as well. But it's not, it's about taking a step back and, as you say, leaning into collections, leaning into like people around you that can actually help you and just building that life together. I think there's something very nice in that approach. And I do think a lot of the world is leaning more towards connection-based stuff at the moment, whether it is online or in person. Just being yourself is a great asset moving forward, online, in person, lean into authenticity, and those right people will find you, and you can just make those choices from there. And I suppose, Jeff, I have one final question to ask you. So, if you could go back in time to a younger self and you could only leave yourself with one piece of advice moving forward, something you know now, but that you didn't know back then, what would you say to yourself?
So I would say it is a two-part answer to that question. The first part is that growth is never comfortable. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. So leaning into that discomfort. And the second half of that is that everything you want always takes longer than you think it will. That instant gratification is a complete false sense of security that is portrayed by media and kind of the way that the world wants to work. But that understand it's going to be hard and it's going to take longer, but that because that's uncomfortable, that's where you actually experience the growth. And so
Yeah.
lean into the discomfort, push through what's uncomfortable, and you do it long enough, and things start to work out.
I love that, and I could not agree more. And Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out best to work with you or connect with you if they would like to do so?
Yeah, so if they want to send me an email, my email is jeff@opkie.com. That's OPKIE. And they can also get in touch with us on social media. We're on Facebook or Instagram @opkie, and would love to connect with whoever. And we love working with small businesses. We have a lot of people who we just connect with and kind of consult with on a one-off basis. That's what gives us joy, is seeing small business owners succeed.
Love it, the impact as well. And Jeff, thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate your time today. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to go and check out Jeffrey Lunt, as he just said. Drop him a message on LinkedIn. Please check out the website opkey.com.
Yep,
To
opkie.com.
opkey.com. Drop him a message. As he said, he loves to speak. So please, I'm sure he'd love to hear from everybody. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future by wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from $0 to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing, and we will see you on the next one.